Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to our series on preparing for fundraising. In today's episode, we will be delving into the crucial aspect of investors' outreach and building strong relationships. Joining us once again is our expert guest, Ashim. Welcome back, Ashim. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me back again, Dave.
Amazing. Our audience loved while you were here for the first time, and we're looking to do a lot more webinars with you. Thank you so much for your information earlier, and looking forward to a great webinar today as well.
Forward.
Amazing. So let's jump right into our first question. So, how can a founders effectively identify and reach out to potential investors for their startups?
Sure. Thanks, Dave, for having me back again on the second episode. I think from our last conversation where I alluded to obviously how do founders kind of prepare the perfect pitch deck and sort of start reaching out to investors. One of the ways to very quickly identify and sort of build a relationship is obviously being sort of present in the relevant communities. Unlike maybe about a decade ago when reaching out to investors was much challenging, today, I think thanks to the LinkedIns of the world and some of the other social platforms, it's actually very easy to reach out and sort of get connected to the investor ecosystem. Also, as as the ecosystem has evolved, a lot of college alumni groups now kind of engage very actively with their own students to talk to them about potential opportunities that they are chasing or startup that they're building. So I obviously encourage early in young founders to try and work with their universities and campuses to see if they have an angel network that is focused on their own university, run by the university alumni, focused on their own students. And obviously you have a lot of angel networks today, and I think there are more than 50 angel networks that are very actively working in the ecosystem today to enable funding for early stage startups. I think they should definitely be able to reach out and identify sort of who some of these relevant investors are, because as founders, investors also do a great job of making sure that they talk about their thesis and the investment that they have made over the last couple of months.
Right. Amazing. Amazing. That was really valuable. Thank you. Moving forward, what strategies do you think can startups employ to grab the attention of investors? Because it's hard to grab a grasp on them, investors these days, because the startups are increasing day by day. And how do you think it could be? It can make a memorable impression. Exactly.
Yeah, so I think, in my opinion, one of the things that obviously differentiates some of the founders who've got a very strong online presence, and the other is just to highlight what are the sort of problem statements that they're going after, and ensuring that they're able to talk about the experience through the solution that they're building, and articulating it very well on these platforms, right? So obviously, if you are a consumer product or you're in the B2B service, your client testimonials make a big difference. A lot of cases, and we know that happens a lot in the D2C ecosystem. A lot of founders end up sending samples to investors to try out and experience the product before even going deeper into the product journey. One of the other things that I've seen a lot of founders do today, given that they're very confident about the product or the service they build, is to do walk tours of their product, of their service. They'll do interviews with their own set of employees. If you're setting up a factory, you will do like walkthroughs of what you're building, how you're differentiating in the ecosystem. So I think you should be able to throw out some of those unique insights about
Absolutely.
what you're solving up directly, so that you're able to grab the attention of the investor. Otherwise, how do you differentiate from everybody else who's trying to solve for the same problem statement?
Get it. Great advice, Ashim. So building on that, I would like to explore another aspect towards it. So how can a founder establish a long-term relationship with investors beyond from the initial pitch? So once they met them, what is the lasting effect? How can they maintain that relationship?
No, that's actually very, very important, right? I've seen a lot of founders who've come and made some, who may have pitched to you their idea and all, and then they have sort of, just moved on. And they also have to recognize that an investor will never make an investment at a specific point of time unknowing them, right? They will possibly want to know your journey, what you've been up to. Obviously, when you potentially meet an investor at a very early stage, your product is still kind of in the works. You're building the first MVP and your first version getting out. And as time passes by, obviously you've had some experiences, you've tried some, product has kind of made it to the market. You've had some early learnings. So I think some of the founders do a great job of just keeping the investors up to date. Either they'll add you to their mailing list, so every month they'll just send a general update on kind of what's happening. Alternatively, and I've had people who've asked me saying, is it okay if I possibly plug you on a quarterly call and just mark it on our calendars? So that every sort of 2 to 3 months, we just get on a generic call and understanding what's going on the business, right? And for me to sort of be able to then track from what they had positioned and pitched on day one, maybe in month 6, have they been able to come in closer to what they were trying to build out, and what were they in line with their projections? And that actually instills a lot of confidence in the investor. And it's funny you talk about this, because I'm right now evaluating a deal where I'd spoken to a founder about a year and a half ago. And as ironic as it may sound, they've delivered better than what they were setting out to achieve. And we're now looking to they're looking to raise probably about $500,000, and we might be taking about $100,000 investment in that deal.
Amazing.
It's very important to sort of stay relevant to your or rather keep your investor base informed of what's going on at your end.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent point. And thank you for the example as well. So yeah. Another common concern that I would like to address here for many founders is that what are some red flags, as in what are the warning signs to watch out for when evaluating a potential investor?
So, I think more than a red flag, obviously, different investors have very different theses of investing, and the way they engage, the amount of percentage holding that they'd like to achieve, specifically if they're coming very early or they're coming little later in the journey. So while you obviously want to make sure that, you're covered from the clauses on the shareholder agreement and all of that, one of the easiest thing to do is talk to a lot of the portfolio company founders, right? Every investor who's invested in even a handful of companies would have obviously announced and mentioned some of the portfolio companies, and you as a founder can very quickly reach out to some of these founders and do a quick ref check on the investor and sort of how they've been as an investor, what is the value add beyond just the capital that they bring to the table, and if there are any sort of red flag that may come along the way, right? So I think today the world is more connected than ever before, and therefore your ability to reach out to somebody who's either raised capital from them before or have had any sort of experience with them historically will be able to share some light. And obviously, a lot of these things do take place confidentially. It's not something that you put out publicly, but at least that gives you a good sense of whether that investor interest and your business interests are broadly aligned. And different investors have different theses, right? Some people want to invest very early stage, take exits at a certain point of time. Some people want to take larger, ownership of the business. Some are okay to take smaller ownership, but come at a different stage of the business, and so on and so forth. So for a founder, it's actually very easy to gauge all of that today.
Amazing. Yeah, true facts. All right, thank you, Ashim. Thank you so much for your expertise, opinion on, and expertise insight for all the questions for founders. I'm hoping that this is going to really help a lot of our audience. And yes, so we will be here for our audience to help in any way we can, so they can reach out to us by commenting. Building strong investor relationship is essential for long-term success. Keep refining your approach and stay determined. Thank you all for joining us. Until next time. Thank you, Ashim. We'll see you again soon.
Thanks, Dave. Have a good one.
You too.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Cheers.